Bryant Cook, he's on your left. Jim Davis, he's on your right. Storm, Miracles, both these players 7 and 2. Probably X3 makes top 8 today. Very unlikely X4, maybe X3-1. We'll see as we shake our way through these rounds, of course.
I'm guessing it was a tough cut today, too. I think it was a 7-2 line. We should have a pretty small field here.
6-2-1.
6-2-1, mate. Okay.
I checked this morning when I woke up at like 2 a.m. We had some 19-pointers in there, and we have 71 players in day number 2 of competition. As Bryant Cook's going to start off our second day of competition with just a Bloodstained Mire. No cantrip, no discard spell, nothing just yet for our Storm players. Jim will sacrifice a Flood Strain. He's going to fall down to 19, not 17, because this is not Modern. This is Legacy, where you can search for lovely dual lands.
We have very much already entered the mid-game here, based on what we've seen from Bryant over the course of day 1, winning on the first turn twice against Benjamin Nikolic.
A Tundra is the land Jim is searching for, so he's got access to blue and white mana. Looks like he might kick things off with a Ponder here to get his Sunday started, and he will. Number 4 on our SCG Tour leaderboard, former Players Champion as well, as I did mention. He will do a little bit of pondering. Portent, Force of Will among the cards he's looking at. That third card is the very powerful Snapcaster Mage.
So it looks like Jim, I'm getting the sense, a mulligan to 5. Scryed and kept a no lander, but had a land on top. This is not a bad mixture of cards to be looking at here, but Jim might just need to hunt for a land.
Well, he's going to keep with the Ponder. He's got another copy of Force Will, and he'll pass the turn back over to Cook. Cook will draw. He's going to play another copy of Bloodstained Mire. He's going to sacrifice them both at the same time, asking Jim if that's okay. Jim says that's just fine. So down to 18 goes Cook. You can see his deck is lovely in foil. Many of the cards are signed. He's very passionate about Storm. Even has a website dedicated to the archetype. And so he'll search up a Badlands and an Underground Sea. Very skilled at playing the deck as well, as now here's a copy of Infernal Tutor. He'll have to reveal a card. He'll reveal a Cabal Therapy.
Oh boy.
So you've kind of got an idea of what his game plan is, which is he's going to go after Jim's hand. Remember, this isn't Miracles circa 2014, where you have to rush and kill them before they get counterbalance and top setup. He's got all the time in the world.
I've seen, some of these lists do play counterbalance. Still, it's so much less effective now without Sensei's Divining Top. But there are some matchups where counterbalance is an effective way of locking someone out of the game. Burn is one such matchup, and Storm is as well. So Jim, game 1, really does not have a whole lot of resistance against Storm. He's got 4 copies of Force Will and 2 copies of Counterspell. That level of permission, pretty easy for Storm to push past.
And again, because Storm is not really in a rush, because Miracles is not rushing them, Cook can make a play like Infernal Tutor for more copies of Cabal Therapy like we saw last turn. Now Davis is casting a Brainstorm, and it looks like he might be Brainstorm locked here.
Yes.
Looks like he picked up 2 Snapcaster Mages and a back to basics.
So I think Jim here needs to, throw away one of these Force of Wills. Knowing that Bryant Cook has Infernal Tutor for a second copy, just seems so likely that his name in the dark is going to be Force of Will. If you want to keep one in your hand to cover against getting killed next turn, that's one thing, but I don't think you can leave both in your hand. And I think Jim is drawing the same conclusion here. Looks like he's saying back 2 cards, and one of them is going to be one of the 2 copies of Force of Will.
And it looks like that second copy of Force Will is going to be the first card on top from his Brainstorm. That means that he'll draw that next turn.
Exactly. He wants to be able to draw it on the next draw step if he gets another turn, but he doesn't want to have both in his hand when Bryant Cook is so likely to just name Force of Will as the first order of business.
Jim will just pass the turn back. He is Brainstorm locked, as they say. It looks like another copy of Burning Wish, the draw here for Cook. Looks like he's got 3 copies of the Wish in hand. This is a Cabal Therapy. And I believe he did mutter Force of Will. And he actually named Brainstorm, so never mind. You see Jim's hand there. Portent, back to basics. Predict, Snapcaster Mage, and Force of Will. Talking to Jim yesterday, he said he did pick this deck up late in the week. Did try Counterbalance in it, did not like it very much. So he moved that card out of the deck.
It's a very cagey name there from Cook. I guess you can draw the conclusion here that Jim's hand likely to have more cantrips in it. And because he knows you went and got Cabal Therapy, he's unlikely just to leave a bunch of Force of Wills in hand. So open on the cantrip, get the information, and then follow up with the right name. But Jim here did get paid off for leaving the Force of Will on top of his deck, as now Cook has cast both of his copies of Cabal Therapy, but Davis still has Force of Will left over to protect himself.
Portent appears to be the card that's about to be cast, so we'll take a look at that. Visions?
Ice Age, I believe.
Ice Age? You know better than me.
It's a slow cantrip, and I think that was mostly an Ice Age thing.
See the 3 cards here in Snapcaster Mage, a Misty Rainforest, and I believe a copy of Brainstorm. It is a very slow cantrip.
I mean, it's essentially Ponder, but you draw the card the following turn, which is a lot worse. It's a lot worse.
How dare you? How dare you talk about Portent like that? Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library. Ponder can't look at theirs.
Yeah, that's right. You can you can dome them.
Yeah, okay. And then put them back in any order. You may have that player shuffle his or her library, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. That is Portent. Here is Duress, taking care of Force of Will. This is part of the appeal of the way that Storm has built his particular Storm deck, insofar as he's got a lot of discard as he takes care of another copy of Force of Will with Duress. And Jim is now left here with not much going on. He does have a second land now, of course. He's picked up a copy of Brainstorm, has a Misty Rainforest that he can play. Snapcaster Mage in hand along with Predict and back to basics.
Although going forward now, Cook has to be a little cautious with how he spends his mana on his own turn because he knows about back to basics. So I think he's going to be loath to commit things to the table unless it's actually killing someone.
Dark Ritual.
Here we go.
I thought perhaps Jim was going to write F6 on the paper.
And no hesitation from Cook here.
Yeah. Jim going to help keep track of the mana and the spells, but we've got that covered, Jim. You've been in the feature match area before. You know that. This is a Lion's Eye Diamond. This is an Infernal Tutor with Lion's Eye Diamond on the stack. Going to lose a whole bunch of Burning Wishes.
I am assuming here that Cook's plan is to go for Ad Nauseam.
That is my assumption as well. He's got 4 mana floating, 1 left, Ad Nauseam, rebuild his hand. Jim is looking to spike a Force of Will off of this Brainstorm. 1, 2, 3 cards coming here for Davis. Can he get a little lucky? Brainstorm, Swords, Snapcaster Mage. Well, I guess he's got another shot at it.
Yeah, he gets a redraw here. He can set back the Plow and whatever else. Sacrifice the Misty Rainforest and Brainstorm again. He's only drawing now to 2 copies of Force of Will left in the deck. So we're not talking about the best odds here, but Davis does get another crack at it.
Davis will sacrifice that Misty Rainforest. He's going to fall down to 18. That's a basic island that he's searching for. And we will see him Brainstorm again. He'll shuffle, present. And then we'll see what happens.
So pretty dispiriting game here from Davis to draw multiple Force of Wills and Brainstorms to cover them at the appropriate time and still perhaps not have enough resistance here to get out of game 1.
Well, it shows the power of discard.
Yep.
3 cards on the way. 1 is a Force of Will.
Never mind.
A Ponder and a Plains.
We're good.
Jim Davis is going to have to put 2 cards back, but he is certainly back in this game. And now what's interesting is I believe you let Infernal Tutor resolve, yes?
To get the Ad Nauseam out?
Well, okay, so this is interesting to me because I actually think you counter the Infernal Tutor.
Yeah, I think that I want to leave Ad Nauseam as a natural draw in his deck at this point.
Also, I don't know if Jim knows this, but Bryant does have a main deck copy of Empty the Warrens. Jim added to the Storm count. He could then go get Empty and then dare Jim to draw Terminus. However, none of this matters as Jim is going to Force of Will the Infernal Tutor. That is taken care of. Bryant is on E as Jim got a little lucky. Here's a Predict. Jim knows the top card is a Plane, so he gets to draw 2 cards. We'll take a look at Predict. Odyssey Uncommon?
Yep.
Is it? An Adam Prozac special. As Jim will untap, we'll take a look at Predict. Jim named a card, he named the Plains. Then he put the top card of his library into his graveyard. And if it is the name card, which Jim knew it was because of Brainstorm, he gets to draw 2 cards, not 1. As this will be a Snapcaster Mage into a Brainstorm for Davis. He'll draw 1 and 2 and 3 cards added to Jim's hand. 2 copies of Terminus, those aren't so good. Those will go back real quick. We'll see him fetch those away with Misty Rainforest. And Jim will dig a land out of his deck. Perhaps it'll be a copy of Tundra, but it'll actually go with a copy of Basic Island.
Jim Davis this weekend only on one copy of Tundra because he's playing with Back to Basics. So
Makes sense.
His mana base is a lot of fetch, I believe 9 basic lands, and only 1 Tundra.
And he's got 6 basic islands and 3 basic plains. No wastelands for him.
You know, as far as, legacy decks go, Davis's deck, I wouldn't quite call it budget, but it is
it feels budgety.
Much cheaper than most.
Yeah.
Not playing a whole lot of dual lands.
Now here's kind of the good news for Bryant. Though his entire hand got blown up going for it last turn, or 2 turns ago, excuse me, as Davis is going to play another Snapcaster Mage here in just a moment. Davis's clock isn't all that fast, and 3 Force of Wills are gone.
Yeah, he has some hope to rebuild.
Yeah.
And that's why Davis, I think you got to just figure out a way to deploy the second Snapcaster Mage and speed up that clock, although it looks like Davis is now floating the 4th copy of Force of Will, which, backed up by 2 Snapcaster Mages and Cook having no resources, should be good enough to take the first game.
Here comes Snapcaster Mage in for 2. Cook's going to fall down to 16. The slow cantrip report means that Davis will be drawing a card in just a moment, and he's going to pick up that 4th copy of Force Will and add it to his hand. Cook has drawn a card. He's passing the turn back. Here's Snapcaster Mage. This is going to be on Predict. Davis is going to predict away that Windswept Heath. Draw 1 and 2. One of them is Snapcaster Mage. Another one is a Windswept Heath. He'll untap those 5 lands as Snapcaster Mage and draw a card here. Picked up a copy of Search for Escanta, I believe, as he comes in for 4. The clock's a little bit faster now. It's Cook going to fall down to 12. The follow-up here for Davis. Looks like it will be that Search for Escanta. He will deploy that enchantment. He'll play a Windswept Heath. He'll simply pass the turn back. Over to Cook we go. He'll draw his card, set it face down. Is it time for Bryant to actually get moving here? Nope, he'll just pass the turn back. Davis can make it a 2-turn clock if he'd like by playing that Snapcaster Mage. Looks like he will play Snapcaster Mage, maybe with a Brainstorm in mind, and he will Brainstorm.
Yep, he gets a little bit of selection here with the Search for Escanta as well.
Terminus among the cards that he'll be putting back, and I think he'll be fetching as well, and he will. Basic Plains likely on the way here for Jim with the Windswept Heath.
I love a good Predict. It was one of my favorite decks that I built in Legacy in the last couple of years was Blue-Red Beatdown with Predict, because Delver of Secrets.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. Goblin Guide. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of info.
Yeah.
2 Predicts in Jim's main deck here this weekend. Davis will untap. Take Liquid Search for Escanta. He'll put that Terminus into the graveyard, and he will transform Search for Escanta into Escanta the Sunken Ruin. And he'll draw a card. Jace the Mind Sculptor is here in for 6. Cook is down to 6. Davis with a Ponder. A Flooded Strand, a Swords of Plowshares, and a Monastery Mentor are cards that Jim is going to shuffle away. No interest in those. He's got the clock that he needs. Of course, Swords not very potent in this matchup, at least game 1.
I think Jim probably on the hunt for a counter spell would be ideal here. That way he would have 2 sources of permission and 2 cards with different names to cover against Cabal Therapy.
He is going to Ponder again. I think I agree with you. I think he is on the hunt for exactly counter spell. He has found his card. Doesn't need those swords, but he will keep counter spell. Give him 2 permission spells. That's a land for the turn. Remember, his land transformed in his contest, so he didn't play that. Cook will draw and cross his fingers. He'll start with a Brainstorm. That will resolve. 3 cards on the way here for Bryant. Can he somehow navigate his way through this mess?
Yeah, Jim has a really good position right here where he's basically covered against a natural storm kill. And in the event that Cook goes for Empty the Warrens, he has enough search to probably find a Terminus, stabilize that way, and then win at his leisure.
Lady Luck was on Jim Davis's side this game as he wins game number 1 here over Bryant Cook. Miracles off the back of that 3rd Force of Will found via Brainstorm. Up a game here over Storm. These players are going to go to the drawing board. Cook will be on the play for game number 2. But in the meantime, a couple words and messages from our sponsors.
Go.
Welcome back. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan. We are here in the booth getting ready to watch Bryant Cook and Jim Davis play game number 2, Storm via Miracles. Storm will be on the play here for game number 2. So we'll start with Cook and his 3 Empty the Warrens, 2 Abrupt Decay, 2 Xanted Swarm, 2 Chain of Vapor, Echoing Truth, the Past in Flames, Grape Shot, Tendrils of Agony, Dark Petition, and Abide.
Wouldn't surprise me for Cook to ratchet up the Empty the Warrens here, and I think the 2 copies of Xanted Swarm make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think Xanted Swarm will stay in, which makes you wonder if Davis is going to leave in a couple copies of Swords of Plowshares or not. He does have 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Disenchant, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Containment Priest to search for his Kanta, a Council's Judgment, a copy of Rest in Peace, and a Caracas.
So Davis just has a lot of bad cards in his main deck for this matchup that I expect him to cut. So cards like Flusterstorm are easy. And then past that, I think Surgical Extraction, Vendilion Click, Rest in Peace, even an additional search for his Kanta possibly, are upgrades against some of the creature removal he has in his deck.
Pretty good options, I think, here for Jim to be able to combat Storm. Winning game 1, a little bit fortunate, I would say, given the mulligan and the timely brainstorm into the 3rd Force of Will, but sometimes that's how things do go for Mr. Davis. So we'll see Cook here on the play in game number 2. In a moment, we'll take a look at Jim Davis, learn a little more about the player from Long Island, New York, 33 years old, member of Team BCW. The entire team couldn't make it here this weekend because of weather issues, but Jim did make it. Long Island not too far here from Worcester. 13 Open top 8s, 2 wins from the former Players Champion, along with 3 Invitational top 8s. Fan of roller hockey, loves to sing and play some bass, and he's a full-time Magic player and Magic content creator with streams, articles, coaching, and traveling, playing at events, and more importantly, winning at events. That's Jim Davis, the 33-year-old from Long Island, New York, as we get ready to watch game number 2 between Cook and Davis. Again, Cook will be on the play, Davis on the draw. We are underway. This is Xanted Swarm off the Bayou. Both those cards came in from the sideboard. Davis does have a Force of Will, and he does have a blue card to go along with it. Xanted Swarm, definitely a card worth countering.
So this is the dilemma. If you Force of Will it, you still have no protection in your hand because you're down your Force of Will. But if you let it go, the Force of Will is not worth anything. So then the question is, are there any copies of Swords of Plowshares remaining in the deck? Because you might just say, okay, I'll let that resolve, hope to cantrip into a Swords, and keep the Force of Will for spells. If you don't have any Swords in your deck, you might just have to force this. And if Davis forces the Xanted Swarm, that is a big win for Cook.
It means you basically did what you were trying to do anyway. There is Force of Will. Goodbye, search for his Kanta.
Signals to me that Davis does not have any copies of Swords of Plowshares left in his deck.
He does have Monastery Mentor, though, and he just drew one of those. He'll sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. Go down to 18. Apologies. There's a basic island. We'll see a ponder here from Jim in just a moment.
Looks like Davis has gone so far as to bring in the Disenchants along with his better sideboard cards.
Okay.
So I'm guessing the Disenchant is if you tag anything that makes mana, that's a big win. And there's a possibility that Cook has Defense Grid.
Yep. You could also be very timely at blowing up the Lion's Eye Diamond.
And also, Davis just has a lot of garbage in the deck, in his game 1 deck. So even if Disenchant's a little bit on the fringe side, probably a higher ceiling than some of his main deck cards.
Vendilion Click, Brainstorm, and a land are what Davis is looking at here, so he'll draw the Vendilion Click. Force of Will is what he'll draw next turn. Cook will sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire. And again, that was Vendilion Click that he draws. Force of Will on top of the deck and a land after that, not Brainstorm. My apologies. As here's a basic swamp for Bryant. Is it time for a discard spell? It is. Duress is going to miss.
And Jim floating a Force Will on the top.
Monastery Mentor, Vendilion Click, 2 Flooded Strands, and a basic Plains here for Davis. Cook will get that information. The question is Cook able to go off now? Xanted Swarm. And pass the turn back. Davis will draw Force of Will here this turn. There's Flooded Strand. Pass the turn back. Cook's drawn a copy of Lion's Eye Diamond.
Well, we'll see if he's got the tools to go off. Lion's Eye Diamond is obviously just a ton of mana.
Well, There's a Bloodstained Mire.
Looks like his Petal, Rite of Flame, Lion's Eye Diamond are the leftovers.
Mm-hmm. There's Petal. And he'll just pass. So he's resolved the artifacts, but he's not going off. Davis is going to sacrifice this Flooded Strand because he knows the top card of his deck is no good from the Ponder.
So I'm guessing Cook's logic here is he doesn't need to add to the storm count, because if he finds Ad Nauseam, he has plenty to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And if he finds Past in Flames, which he's
Sideboard.
on the sideboard, but he has no graveyard to go off with. So getting these artifacts out on the battlefield don't really cost him in terms of the storm count, but they do cover him against Vendilion Click, because he may want those over the Rite of Flame that's left over in his hand.
The ways that Cook can go off soon here is Davis will draw. He's picked up another copy of Flooded Strand. He draws actual Ad Nauseam, Infernal Tutor, and I think even Burning Wish will do it.
Yep.
Because he can wish for Dark Petition for Ad Nauseam. I think he's got enough mana to rock and roll there.
So if memory serves, Xantid Swarm is an attack trigger. It doesn't have to be unblocked or anything like that.
It's just an attack trigger. We can take a look at Xantid Swarm.
So Vendilion Click doesn't cover David. So Vendilion Click doesn't stop Cook from getting at least one more trigger off the Xantid Swarm.
Correct.
It's a bizarre design.
It's an old card. It's an old card.
This is bizarre. So
When it attacks, defending player can't play spells this turn.
So we have an attack trigger on a 0-power flyer.
Oh yeah. You better believe it.
It's
It's what?
a weird design.
No.
A 1/1 flyer that has to deal combat damage. That makes more sense to me.
Nah.
This is a weird.
I like it just how it,
Converges.
I like it just how it is.
It's more powerful this way.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I like it. Cook gonna sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire, get himself a beautiful volcanic island.
You saw Cook there fetch out the swamp earlier. He did see back to basics in game number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if that's still in Davis's deck, but no reason to take any risks.
Cook looks like he's gonna do some cantripping. Whoa.
Well, this is an interesting line to take in when you know that Davis has a Vendilion Click in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what can Cook actually do? He doesn't have enough mana to just fire off an Ad Nauseam here.
I don't know what this is. Burning Wish. Oh, he's doing this with the. Okay. So he's
Sure.
doing this to hope that he didn't draw Force of Will, basically.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to lose his Xantid Swarm by attacking with it.
He also kind of needs to do it now, because if he attacks with the Xantid Swarm, Davis goes, okay, click you.
Yep.
Take your Burning Wish.
Eat
block
your
your
Xantid
Xantid
Swarm.
Swarm.
Yep.
Now, so this is a little bit unorthodox here, but I think this is the path that Cook has to take. And now Davis has to wonder, can he just get something that kills me? Because if he just gets something that's modest here, then I still have my Force of Will and my Vendilion Click. Or do you just need to force this?
Well, you don't know what's in the toolbox.
Right, and
That's the scary part.
Now he's got to figure out, what can, because Cook is going to get priority again after the wish resolves. So the Vendilion Click isn't going to be able to break up whatever Cook goes and gets. Maybe Force of Will does, but maybe it doesn't, depending on if he gets a Storm card or not.
And Jim's not going to take any chances.
Yeah, just
He
playing
says,
the safe.
Force of Will, exiling my Vendilion Click, which is going to turn back on Bryant's Xantid Swarm.
Although now Cook is empty-handed, so who really cares?
It's true. It's true. Back to Jim Davis we go. He'll draw. Portent. Might be time to deploy Monastery Mentor.
Oh, now we got a turn. Now we got a clock going here.
Yep.
And this is really critical for Davis. He's done a very good job of fending off Cook's opening salvo here, but Cook still has 4 mana and a Xantid Swarm. That's a lot to rebuild with. So Davis needs to get a move on here, start applying some pressure, take some turns out of this game.
Here comes Monastery Mentor for Davis, excuse me. Now it's going to be a Portent. Who you want to target with that Portent?
I think it's so good for Davis to chain together spells here that I would want to see my own deck.
I want to get him. All right,
Ooh.
fine.
Yeah.
He's going to target himself. Counterspell's nice. Caracas, not so much. I think that other card may have been a Containment Priest, I think.
Yeah.
Davis will keep him.
It is not ideal for the purposes of clocking, but having 5 power on the battlefield along with a counter spell is a pretty good setup.
Pass the turn. Xanted swarm to Jim. Nothing coming afterward, though. Counterspell the draw. Containment Priest, the card we'll take a look at here, as Monastery Mentor and Bryant Colville, a.k.a. a Monk Token, will attack. Two-mana 2/2 with Flash. Bzz. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Abrupt Decay off the top of the deck there, going to take care of Monastery Mentor. Here is Containment Priest. Nah.
Yeah, it's no spells.
No spells, thanks.
So we need to do that with the trigger on the stack.
Yep. That could matter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's, he's down 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Davis will sacrifice this fetch land because he knows the next card coming from the Portent. So it'll be a fresh draw step here for Jim. Now, Davis does have some big draws. Chase the Mind Sculptor, certainly one.
It's very common in Legacy for there to be an asymmetry with knowledge of how your own cards work versus your opponent's knowledge of how these cards work.
That's true. That's very true. Jim will draw. Brainstorm. I've seen worse draws. Might just want to lead on the powerful card drawing spell.
Yeah, I mean, your hand's gonna be forced here a little bit anyway because he's gonna attack with Xanted Swarm.
Mm-hmm. Here is Brainstorm. 2, 3 cards coming for Davis. Flusterstorm, Brainstorm, Surgical Extraction. They seem okay.
Well, this is all still not, an answer to the Xanted Swarm is the problem. These are all individually fine cards, but they don't really cover Davis all that well if Cook cobbles together some good draw steps. The real prize here would be something like Source of Plowshares, which is probably not in Davis's deck anymore, or a Vendilion Click, because those are probably his best answers to the Xanted Swarm. If he's able to do that, suddenly, all your counter spells go from nothing to golden.
Mm-hmm. Surgical. Gonna hit Burning Wish. And they'll go through the deck together.
Davis just wants confirmation that there's only 3 Burning Wishes in there.
Mm-hmm. Bryant saying, keep your grubby hands off my beautiful deck.
Yep.
You don't get to touch this. And now here comes an attack with a bigger Monk token because of a couple of cards cast.
But, you can see Cook is very much drawing live here. He has Dark Ritual. He's got plenty of mana now. If he finds Ad Nauseam or Infernal Tutor, he may be able to go off right away.
Trigger on the stack, playing Containment Priest this time. Yeah. Cook will pass the turn back. Davis will draw. Flusterstorm, not great. Ad Nauseam getting worse and worse as we go, by the way. Cook's life total getting lower and lower.
Yep, but Cook will have a lot of mana to work with here. So, yeah, pressure's on Davis here to just keep attacking for as much as possible. He's still got the Monk in play, the Monk token. So he's generating damage off of Prowess triggers. So how we change the spells together is important too. You want to shave out as much time as possible. You've cut off Burning Wish, so the likely kill from the spot involves ad nauseum, and therefore every point of damage you do to Cook is valuable.
Noah Walker walking away with a match slip. Shocking.
X and 1.
Really surprising. Walking away with a match slip with Grixis Delver. I can't believe it. Jim is back. He had a question for a judge. Looks like that's resolved. Back to the game we go. Brainstorm. He's going to Flusterstorm it.
So he knows his counterspells are no good because of the Xantid Swarm. And right now he is just trying to get a little bit more damage in.
That's it. 2, 3.
And now you can Snapcaster a cantrip here. And now Snapcaster, I think, on Portent and Portent Cook is starting to look a lot better. Because you need to lock out maybe one more draw step.
Or he could Snapcaster Surgical, which is what he's also thinking about.
Well, I don't know what you would Surgical out of Cook's graveyard at this point. Unless there's a Dark Ritual down there and you get the Dark Ritual out of his hand, I don't think there's a high leverage Surgical target.
There's an LED down there, which is okay.
But the bottleneck for Cook isn't mana right now. He's got enough mana to work with. I like Snapcaster and just trying to lock out Cook from having a good draw step.
Oh, yeah. Jim reaching for old Portent. A couple of prowess triggers on that Monk token from Monster and Mentor. You've got one from Portent, one from, well, potentially Portent, one from Brainstorm and one from Flusterstorm. Look at this. Isn't this fun?
I'm going upstairs. I'm doming.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Little dome piece. Here we go.
There we go.
LED, Abrupt Decay, LED.
Yeah, you just put the 2 LEDs on top, let him keep those. Again,
yeah, you don't know what that card is in his hand.
I have a guess about the bottleneck not being mana.
He's got a mystery card in his hand. Who knows what it is? Except for Bryant. He'll draw an LED. Bryant will pass the turn back. Ah, of course. His Xantid Swarm on blocking duty. It's natural home. Davis will draw. Counter spell.
Paging the following player, Jake Ashton.
Here they come.
Jake Ashton.
Blocking there. Gonna take 3.
And he knows that Cook's draw step is another LED. And your counter spell is good.
That's going to do it. Jim Davis going to win this match here over Bryant Cook. 2-0. Miracle's going to take care of Storm. And for number 4 on our 2018 Season 1 leaderboard here on the SCG Tour.